Hello, Jets fans. We keep winning on the Rodgers train. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Rich Sports Talk and a terrible version of The Voice. I'm your host, Nolan Rich. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today. You know what we're talking about. You know the big Jets storyline. But for those of you who aren't aware, the Jets made a little bit of a move today, looking like they are going to agree to a contract with Allen Lazard, the former Green Bay wide receiver. But it gets even better. I know that there is a lot of frustration in Jets land right now. I understand that there's a lot of panic in Jets Nation. I understand that there's a lot of frustration. Why isn't this getting done? I get the frustration. I get being a Jet fan, getting burned time and time and time again. I get all of that. But it was curious today because Diana Rossini, who's one of the most in touch, I would say, reporters at ESPN, like she has a lot of great sourcing, and she is one of these reporters that is usually right, said Aaron Rodgers has provided a list of free agents he would like the team to target and acquire. Here's the list. Starts with Randall Cobb, Allen Lazard, who the Jets already have reportedly signed, Mercedes Lewis, nice tight end, good blocker, and the big one, Odell Beckham Jr. And interestingly enough, at Odell's workout last week, the Jets were one of the camps that were there. There was 12 teams there, and basically the Jets were at the Odell Beckham situation. We know that Odell's been trying to pair with Rodgers. We have known for the last 2 years that these two have tried to meet up. And look, I love Odell on the Jets. And stop it. I keep seeing these rumors online, and people are like, oh, the Jets are going to trade Elijah Moore if they bring this. No, they're not. They're cutting Corey Davis. They just cut one of their other receivers. Like, you look outside of Garrett Wilson, you have Elijah Moore in the slot. The one piece that might get moved is Denzel Mims. That might be the one piece on the Jets that gets moved, but that is who the Jets are reportedly targeting. And here's my thought on this whole situation. And I get the anxiety. I get it's frustrating because you saw Nate Herbig get signed by the Steelers today, and it's kind of like, can the Jets do something? Can the Jets do anything? But you look at what the Jets are doing. Oh my God. Like, this is my favorite is Colin Cowherd today thinks Mac Jones is the answer for the Jets. You've got to be freaking kidding me. I'll get into that a little bit later too, and why it's the Jets are so gung-ho on Rodgers. I'll get into that, but I wanted to look at this from a different angle in the media because I get why it's getting covered the way it's getting covered. Aaron Rodgers going to New York, going to the New York market, the eerily similar, even though it's a lot different, comparison to Brett Favre going to Jets. I get all of this. I get all of the intrigue. Oh, it's the same old Jets. And look, let's be honest. The national media, they like to have fun at the Jets' expense. It's fun to make fun of the Jets. It's great content from them. And everyone, and I get it, Jet fans' frustrations on Twitter has been a talking point. I get that all of that from that point. But people are looking at like, well, Rodgers is screwing the Jets. Rodgers is messing everything up for the Jets. No, he's not. The Jets are trying to move the cap space around to get Aaron Rodgers. If they bring in Aaron Rodgers, they're not going to make big free agency moves because they're not going to have the cap space to do that. They're going to have to be really good in the draft and do what they're doing. Look, sign veteran minimums. Like Mercedes Lewis will probably have to be a veteran minimum. Randall Cobb. And look, I know the reports are OBJ wants $20 million a year, but he's going to want to play with Aaron Rodgers. It's probably going to be a 1 year, maybe $11 to $13 million deal. And look, for Odell Beckham for 1 year, I don't hate it. And you can't tell me Odell wouldn't take a little bit less to come play back in the New York market, back on the number one stage in the world, and be paired with Aaron Rodgers to hopefully help him get one final big contract in his career. It's just too perfect. But I wanted to look at this from another way. And guys, again, thanks so much for joining us. If you'd like, please get in the comment section. Please share our page. Please go on social media. Give us a follow, Rich Sports Talk. We want to grow as many Jet fans as possible. I see some comments are coming in. I will answer your questions, your thoughts on the whole Aaron Rodgers situation. Just give me a minute. I will get to your comments. You're joining us after the live stream. Make sure to comment on the video below and we will get to your questions. But it is funny because no one's talking about the other side of this equation. I mean, there's two dance partners. It's the Jets and the Packers. People kept saying like, oh, Aaron Rodgers is hurting the Jets. He is hurting them because he's not making a decision. I think the decision's been pretty much made. It just hasn't gone through yet. Because if the Jets were not convinced that they were getting Aaron Rodgers and getting Aaron Rodgers to the point that not only is he going to be there for a year, but maybe 2 years, they wouldn't be approaching this. And I thought Marcus Spears had a great point today on Allen Lazard. With the Jets getting Allen Lazard, it looks like Rodgers, it might not just be a 1 year thing. It could be a 2 or 3 year thing. Because Allen Lazard, he's not an old receiver. This isn't someone that's at the tail end of his career. This is someone that's in the prime of his career. He's going to be 28 next year. It's someone that he really trusts. It's someone that has been constantly on the field in Green Bay. A big target, 6'5", 227 pounds, something that the Jets, let's be honest, don't really have. They don't have that big outside wide receiver. And now they add that, and they had it in Corey Davis, but Corey Davis is likely going to get cut. So why is Aaron doing this? I think he is doing this to spite the Green Bay Packers. Now, I want to hear what you guys have to say, my thoughts. And look, I know if Packer fans are watching this, they won't believe me, but here's my thought on this. Aaron Rodgers is controlling this whole thing. What team can he hurt the most? It's Green Bay. What's the one thing he doesn't want Green Bay to do? It's be successful next year. To prove that they needed him a lot more than he needed them. What is he doing? Well, Aaron Rodgers has an enormous cap hit that the Packers basically cannot do anything in free agency until it's moved. Wouldn't you know, Aaron Rodgers hasn't been moved yet. And a lot of the best free agents are off the board or coming off the board. They couldn't keep Allen Lazard. They couldn't maybe even be in the market for Darren Waller, who just got traded to the Giants. You look right now, I think Aaron is doing this to spite the Packers and is trying to make a point. See, the New York Jets, I'm not even on their team yet, and they are doing everything to help me. For Green Bay, what have you done to help me? Yeah, you got me Christian Watson after all this time, but you didn't bring me Darren Waller when you trade Devontae Adams, and there are the reports that they could have had him potentially an offer for Devontae Adams. They didn't take Darren Waller back. They constantly draft defensive players in the first round. That's great. And of course, the Jordan Love pick. And it wasn't just Jordan Love. This wasn't even the Aaron Rodgers situation, which I think people misconstrue. People say, oh, it's like the Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers dynamic again. No, it's not. Aaron Rodgers fell to Green Bay at 24 in that draft. He fell to them. The Packers not only didn't have Jordan Love fall to them, they traded up. They traded up to go get him in the draft. What message does that send to Aaron Rodgers? Well, they love this guy so much that they want to go up and get him. And Aaron's not a dummy. Aaron understands the NFC's not good. The NFC is garbage. So if the Packers are aggressive and had all this cap space and add a couple big pieces and Jordan Love is okay, you can make the chance they're a wild card team next year. I don't think they'd be the best team in their division. I think Detroit would have passed them. But, you know, Chicago, a lot of nice pieces, but a very young football team, still trying to figure it out. Jordan Love, I think the Packers you can make a case to compete for a wild card if everything goes right. But by doing this and dragging it out, it hurts the Packers way more than the Jets. And I get it. Jet fans are on edge because they put all the eggs in the Aaron Rodgers basket. They're seeing all these moves being done. There's the frustration. And look, I get it. I know you want clarity. You want this done. I get all of that as a Jet fan. I understand how nerve-wracking it is. And because of the Jets' history, things tend to go wrong. And I don't think the problem is players don't understand, I think, a team's history or appreciate it. Where as a Jet fan, the players don't understand what Jet fans have been through. They haven't been through being left at the altar by Bill Belichick, by having Peyton Manning go back to Tennessee, by missing out on Trevor Lawrence. Like Jet fans, because of the history of this franchise and because of how many things have gone wrong for this franchise, there is this sense that when will the shoe drop? Not if, it's when the shoe will drop. But I really am confident today that with this Lazard move, like Lazard is a good young receiver. He has a market. Do you really think he's going to the Jets if Aaron Rodgers isn't going to the Jets? You don't think all these veterans on the Jets are restructuring their contracts if they don't feel Aaron Rodgers is coming? I think that they know, but this is the one final dig by Aaron Rodgers to the Packers. Because I think he is frustrated that they never put a really great team around him. They put some good teams, but the year he had a really good defense, he won a Super Bowl. I think that in his mind, the Packers are the team that has let him down. Now, you can make the case Aaron hasn't played great the last couple of years down the stretch, and you'd be right. But when we look back at it and you see all these pieces that other teams have brought in, look, to the Packers' credit, they draft unbelievable. They do a great job acquiring receivers. They do a great job of offensive linemen. They might be one of the best drafting teams. But the NFL has changed. And you don't think Aaron Rodgers gets upset when he sees star receivers go. I don't think Aaron Rodgers was sitting there the last couple of off seasons and he sees Tom Brady basically get to handpick a team in Tampa Bay and go and win a Super Bowl. Go see the Rams, who are paying for it now, but basically sacrificed everything to get Matthew Stafford a Super Bowl. Heck, even the Broncos did everything to try to accommodate Russell Wilson. It blew up in their face, but they tried everything. The other thing, too, is I think the NFL wants this deal to get done. The NFL, I am curious, like the NFL loves drama. The NFL loves storylines. I'm kind of curious if the NFL is putting this a little bit on hold to drag it out for drama, which again, as Jet fans, drives us crazy. But this is good for business for the NFL. It's the number one headline. And basically, we wait with bated breath. What will Aaron Rodgers do? And if you're in the NFL and you're an analyst who's kind of laughing and saying, I don't know how it's going to work with the Jets. I don't know if it's going to be great with the Jets. It might not be. But if you want a great NFL next year, if you want an entertaining NFL next year, the best thing for this league right now is Aaron Rodgers going to the number one media market in the world. And I do think that there's a disconnect between a lot of these analysts and where the Jets are. Because I kept seeing this, the Jets should have gone with Derek Carr. The Jets should have gone with a different option. Really? Jimmy G is the fourth best quarterback in the AFC West right now. The AFC right now has an absurd amount of talent just to compete. I like Derek Carr a lot, and I was saying I wouldn't mind Derek Carr on the Jets, but the issue around with Derek Carr is, at best, he's the second best quarterback in this division, and do you trust him to win on the road? I don't think so. I believe that the Jets have in their mind, and I know a lot of people say, well, I want Lamar Jackson. The Jets should go after Lamar. I don't think the Jets want to give a fully guaranteed contract. And yes, there's a lot of baggage with Aaron Rodgers, but here's the big difference. You are marrying Lamar Jackson if you give him that contract. You're just dating Aaron Rodgers for 2 years. And I do think the Jets, and I know fans hate to hear this, they are still hoping to somehow salvage Zach Wilson. Because if we're honest, the best thing for this franchise going forward in the long term is Aaron Rodgers makes this a highly competitive team the next 2 years. Zach Wilson learns from his idol. He learns how to be smart, to play within the system, to play with rhythm, and comes back. Still a young quarterback. Remember, Zach Wilson's going to be 23 next year. If he sits for 2 years, he'll be 25. Is in the Jets' head, they come out, Zach Wilson comes back, they salvage him, and they have a young quarterback for the next 10 years. Or if they sit in practice and say he's not the guy, it's bought them a 2-year window to find the guy, to look in drafts, to potentially find someone to trade for. I just feel like for the Jets, both short-term and long-term, Aaron Rodgers is the best option. Now, I get what people say, well, Lamar Jackson is the best option long-term. I get it, and I love Lamar. I think Lamar deserves that massive contract. But we are so far away from something getting done with Lamar. Even if the Jets gave him a fully guarantee and offered the picks, the Ravens could respond and re-sign him. That's what I think people are forgetting. Like the Ravens, like the way that tag works is the Ravens have a chance to come back with an offer. So the Jets could go fully in on Lamar and still not get him. So I think that the Jets are doing the right thing. I know it's frustrating. I know it's aggravating as Jet fans as we sit, we wait, we debate, we go, when is this going to happen? And very interesting too, OBJ on Twitter today was tweeted at, respond to a fan like with the big eyes, like saying, yo, OBJ, the Jets. Well, I do think it will be interesting too. Like if the Jets can get an OBJ, maybe that will be a good thing for some of these young receivers like Elijah Moore. But the Jets, yes, they cleared a lot of cap space. I really do believe that the Jets are getting Aaron Rodgers. And I know it's frustrating. Saw Jimmy Ward sign yesterday, saw a bunch of safeties. But it's what I've been telling people too. The Jets are not going to spend on a safety. I think the Jets really love this roster. I think that they're looking for supplemental pieces, which you're seeing who Aaron wants. Maybe they'll bring back like a Sheldon Rankins. They'll maybe add a couple small pieces, but they're going to try to hit in the draft. And the other thing I would keep an eye on too with Aaron, and I'm really curious to see what happens. We also have to remember that I'm curious to see what his relationship with Devontae Adams is. Does him and Devontae get along? Because all of a sudden, that door might be open. Because the Raiders gave away Darren Waller like for nothing today. Like if you are a team in the NFL, like even the Jets, if you're a team that's sitting there today and you see the offer that the Giants got Darren Waller, I think every GM, like you don't think Woody Johnson went down after he heard the news and like, Joe, what the hell? Did you call the Raiders on Darren Waller? I know we got some tight ends, but we couldn't get we could trade a third rounder to get Darren Waller. I think everyone in the league around the league today was like, really? I feel bad for Jimmy G. Like, could you imagine being Jimmy G? I bet one of the selling points is you got all these great weapons. We know you love a tight end. You're going from one great tight end to another, and then the next day he's gone. Jimmy G must be pissed. But I'm curious, Devontae Adams. If you're Devontae Adams, does he request a trade out? I could see that happening because if you're Devontae Adams, think about all that's happened. You went to the Raiders to play with Derek Carr, who was your good friend. The Raiders not only mishandled the Carr situation, but they embarrassed Derek Carr. So now you don't have Carr. You have Jimmy G, who is at best the fourth best quarterback in that entire division. I mean, hell, he might be the fifth. Jared Stidham, who just signed with the Broncos, might be better for all we know. And you're sitting there going, okay, not great. And then Darren Waller gets traded to the Giants. If you're sitting there as Devontae Adams, you're like, okay, we lost arguably the second best offensive player on this team. We lost our quarterback. Like, if I'm Devontae Adams, I'm requesting a trade out. And could the Jets be a possible landing place? You never know. But I get the frustration. Look, the Jets have lost some key pieces. Connor McGovern's still on the market, but hasn't signed anywhere. You also look to You also look too that they lost Nate Herbig. I think that's a sign that's really hurts the Jets. I really would have loved the Jets to bring Nate Herbig back. I think he's a starting caliber guard, 24 years old. The one silver lining is Joe Douglas was able to find him, and I feel like Joe Douglas is good at finding those type of players. But the Nate Herbig signing hurts. Like, it hurts that he's going to the Steelers because I really like Nate Herbig. I think he was a high-end backup. Now I think the Jets have to really address the offensive line, and that's the way this free agency is shaping up and the way that they are targeting running backs, wide receivers, some skill positions. I think that the Jets, this draft, is going to be all on the offensive line. Like, I would not be shocked if the first two picks now are not on offensive linemen if the Jets just go gung ho. But we will have to see. I want to see what you guys have to see. Here we go. Joe is back. I am 1,000% against Aaron Rodgers at this point. Look, Joe, I get the frustration. I get that there is a lot of Jet fans that are in your camp right now. But if you find out later today or tonight that Aaron Rodgers is coming to the Jets, I do think you would be excited. And the problem with the Jets is there's no better option. Like, everyone's going to say, well, Lamar's a better option. Lamar, we have so far to go with that. Number one, are you giving a fully guaranteed contract to a player that has missed 12 games over the last 2 years? Are you doing that? Are you giving up the draft capital? And here's the kicker. The Jets could go and offer Lamar 230 fully guaranteed. They could offer the Ravens those first-round picks, but then the Ravens can counter that. They can counter that. And even if it goes to a franchise tag, and even if Lamar sits out camp, like, we are so far down the road, the Jets cannot wait on Lamar. And the other thing, too, is I think there will be a much bigger market for Lamar. Now, is there concerns that the Jets are the only team bidding on Rodgers? A little bit. But you can't tell me if you put Aaron Rodgers on this team, you don't feel good about this Jet team. The Jets, too, like, you look at their schedule this year. You look at the quarterbacks that they have to go on, like, outside of the division. They have to go. I'm just looking right now at their. What the heck? I love the Jets website. Like, I go to the future opponents. It takes me to the 2024 season. It doesn't show 2023. I mean, come on, guys. Like, can I see the 2023 schedule, please? Here we go. Here's who the Jets have to play at home outside of the division. They have to play Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts. On the road next year, Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of quarterbacks. You look at that schedule and you all of a sudden go, Aaron Rodgers, you feel, is better than those options, except maybe Mahomes and Herbert. If you had Derek Carr, you'd be like, I'm not sure about that. I mean, this is a great opportunity for this. Look, Elijah Moore's not getting traded. I really doubt Elijah Moore's getting traded. I just think that they're at peace. Like, people are like, oh, like, the Jets are going to also cut receivers. Well, they're going to cut one in Corey Davis. And the other thing, too, is I think they're going to try to move Denzel Mims. I just feel like that's going to happen. Yeah. I think your name's appropriate, 12 years. So I think it's taking 12 years off of all our lives right now. I mean, I'd love to hear your comment on that. I already hate Rodgers. I mean, it would be interesting though if he agrees to the Jets and he gets the Jets deep into the playoffs or gets them to a Super Bowl. I don't think Jet fans would hate him. Yeah, sucks to lose Herbig. I wouldn't mind seeing Broderick Jones and John Michael Schmitz being our first two picks. Here's the thing with John Michael Schmitz, who I'm really high on I think he's the best center of this draft. The way I see it with him is the Jets would have to trade up to get him. I think he's going to go in the 21 to 32. Well, not 32 because it's 31 draft picks this year. I think John Michael Schmitz is going to go in that range. I don't think he falls all the way to the Jets in the second round. But if the Jets had to trade up to get him, I wouldn't hate it. And I'm kind of curious, too, is maybe the Jets haven't been as aggressive at center. I know they couldn't get the 49er center. They were aggressive on him. I think one of the reasons maybe they're not as aggressive on the center position is because that they like a couple of the centers in this draft or converting one of these guards into a center. I don't love that as a rookie. But the other thing, too, is I also wouldn't love two rookie offensive linemen with Aaron Rodgers. But the thing, too, is I'm curious is The good news for the Jets is the Bears trade actually helps the Jets in a kind of a weird way. Now, it hurts the Jets because I do think the Bears can take a lineman at 9. But like I've been saying in this whole process, the run on quarterbacks helps the Jets because it pushes valuable pieces down the board. And I was saying, I really believe 4 quarterbacks are going to top them. People are like, oh, you're crazy. Oh, that's not going to happen. You can make a case now. We might see 4 go in the top 4, for God's sakes. But what that does is it pushes everyone down the board. And if it does that, I'm also curious to see what the Jets do in the draft. I think the Jets want options. And the Jets, one of the reasons why getting Dwayne Brown back is great is because it gives the Jets, like, you still want to upgrade the tackle position, but it's not as big of a need. Like, let me throw out a hypothetical. If Anderson, the great edge rusher, falls to, let's say, 5 or 6, and we know how much the Jets love the pass rush and how much the Jets love getting to the quarterback. If he's sitting there and the Jets have an opportunity to go up and get him, that could be another great pick. Now, this is a receiver. This also, too, is a receiver class. There's good receivers, but it's not as great as last year's receiver draft. So I do think that the Jets have put themselves in a position where they're not desperate for a receiver. Now, it's a good tight end class, but I don't think the Jets want a rookie tight end. But, like, if Will Anderson Jr. falls a little bit in this draft, like, that could be someone that the Jets maybe go up and get. Like, Jalen Carter, I doubt the Jets would want to go down that road with all the off the field issues. But I'm just looking at, let me look at the updated draft order. And again, guys, I'm sorry. I've just been so busy lately. I'm waiting to do a full Jets mock draft after the free agency period. But also let me know too, do you guys want me to do like a quarterback view, like my top 4 quarterbacks? I was probably going to do a video about that later this week. If you want me to do a full 31 mock draft, let me know in the comments and I will get on that as well. Absolutely. Ben Jesus, I've been saying I want McGovern back because it takes away a hole. It means it's not a position you have to replace. I think that's crazy that Rodgers demanding all of these old ass useless players and Joe is answering his every wish. It to an extent. I mean, Lazard isn't an old player. Cobb, I don't love, but if Cobb's your 4th or 5th receiver, I don't hate it. If he's on it depends. If he's on like the veteran minimum. Now, Mercedes Lewis is an interesting one because the Jets, we all know about the tight ends last year, and I do think they really want to get Ruckert into the rotation this year. And you look at him being 38 years old, I just don't know how he would fit into the picture. But he is a really good blocking tight end, which is something the Jets could use. Now, do you really want to put Ruckert on basically almost like on a second-year red shirt? I don't love that. I think he's got a lot of talent. I mean, the big one to me is going to be OBJ. And look, I think Aaron and OBJ for 1 year, I think could work because both are motivated for different reasons. Number one, Aaron's motivated to stick it to the Packers. Number two, this probably is Odell's last chance at a legitimate contract. Because of the injury history, because of everything. You look at the age 31, he'll be 31 next offseason. I think that if Odell comes out, stays healthy for an entire season, is able to, hold it together off the field and play exceptionally well, I do think that that's really going to help him maybe get one more big contract. Might be a short-term contract, but it will be a contract. And again, guys, I'm just constantly checking Twitter because I'm just making sure nothing big time. Though the Eagles have brought Rashad Penny into the fold. I mean, I wouldn't hate Odell Beckham Jr. either. It depends on the price, though. The Mercedes Lewis is a weird one again because the Jets have a pretty full tight end room, but then you wonder, they have Uzama, they have Conklin. Could they maybe trade one of those to get a piece? I mean, that's also an option as well. But I'm just looking at the draft right now. Like, I think Arizona trades out at 3. Seattle doesn't need offensive line help. Detroit, maybe, but I doubt it. Vegas is a freaking mess right now. I have no idea what Vegas is going to do at 7. I doubt offensive linemen. Now, Chicago at 9 could go offensive line. Atlanta's been good in free agency, but they still might go offensive line. The Eagles at 10, they're starting to get a little bit long in the tooth. Like, if Anderson fell to like 6 or 7, could the Jets trade up? I mean, I think all options are on the table. But again, guys, would love to hear your reaction, your comments. I just really think like Aaron isn't doing this to the Jets. I think he's just sticking to the Packers. I really believe that he is dragging this out to basically hurt them because they can't make any moves until this contract's off the books. They can't be aggressive in free agency. And could you imagine the Packers that they finally get Rodgers off the books, but then, man, it's what's left. I mean, it's basically the scraps. It's nothing. So, but man, the Giants with a great trade, and I know that it's a lot of money due for someone that's had some injury issues. 12.45 million in 2023, 12 million in 2024. But when you're getting a top 3 tight end football, I think it's worth, especially when you have Daniel Jones. And look, I think the Giants were smart with what they've done with Joe Shane. I know I'm starting going off this Giant tangent, but I think it was a really smart move because this isn't a great free agency class for wide receiver. This really isn't a great draft. So if you can improve your receiving core, you might as well improve with a great tight end. I think they did that. 5-Star Logistics LLC. Well, the good news is you're better than 4-Star Logistics. Welcome to the show. If I was the Jets, I would tell Rodgers to pass off with this wish list. Like, you mean not get the players? I mean, they're already kind of doing that. Yeah, and that's the thing, Gangrene. Like, that's the thing, too. Like, people are like, oh, my God, they bring in those players. Like, Cobb would be the 5th receiver. I mean, Cobb would basically be there. And plus, you got a lot of young receivers. You have Elijah Moore. You have Garrett Wilson. They're incredibly talented. You don't think having a great veteran presence like Randall Cobb would be helpful in their development? It could be very helpful for them. And I think Cobb would be a nice role player. I think he's getting the veteran minimum. Mercedes lose. The big one to me would be OBJ. Now, OBJ at $20 million a year, I don't think it's going to happen. But the opportunity to go back on the New York stage, because here's the other thing too. If Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets are going to be last year's Broncos in the sense that they're going to be fought after hard for primetime television, which is another reason too why I really think Woody wanted this trade done, is because the Jets have not been on Sunday Night Football in about a decade. The Jets are barely on Monday Night Football. The Jets are not a primetime draw. And you look at the Jets schedule next year, how many matchups do you think networks are going to fight over for Thursday Night Football, for Sunday Night Football, for prime time? Like, if they get Aaron Rodgers, the NFL is going to go bananas because they're going to put the Jets on Hard Knocks. The Jets have the Hall of Fame game already. You look at the Jets, who they play. Let me just point this scenario out. How many of these games could be primetime? And I'm gonna exclude the division. You're going to get at least one Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen game, probably, right? Maybe you could do the Dolphins, maybe the Patriots, because the Patriots, the storyline of the Jets losing 12 straight, that could be intriguing. But just excluding all of those, I don't think they would put the Giants and Jets because it'd be the same market. But you don't think on the road, Aaron Rodgers and the Jets go to the Broncos to face Russell Wilson. The Broncos get to face the quarterback that they wanted, the quarterback that Nathaniel Hackett wanted, and he comes back. The coach that was fired because Russell Wilson couldn't perform comes back with his best friend to Denver. They play Dallas on the road. Aaron Rodgers in the one stadium he won a Super Bowl. Could that be this year's Thanksgiving game? The New York market, Cowboys. How about at home? Primetime, New York City, the Eagles, the defending NFC champions with Jalen Hurts. What about the Chargers with Justin Herbert, the team on the rise in the NFL? And of course, the Kansas City Chiefs. What could be the last time we see Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. You're not telling me that Kansas City game, NBC, Fox, CBS, ESPN aren't fighting tooth and nail to get those damn games? You're wrong. Thanks for that. I appreciate the right. Packers don't care. They have a huge dead cap anyway. So they'll have more space, though. Like, they could go out and still sign pieces. And they want to put pieces around Jordan Love. As far as we know, no. But I just feel like it's going to happen. The thing with OBJ is he's going to have to make a big decision. Like, I'm going off the OBJ tangent, but OBJ of the Jets, I think it only happens if he wants to play with Rodgers and he's willing to take a pay cut. If he wants to get a big contract, he's not coming to the Jets. They're not going to have the room. But I'm curious to see what they do. I'm comfortable with this current scenario where Aaron Rodgers acts as a GM, but I do understand the reasoning. Jets front office and coach staff are a year one. Look, that's the thing too. Like, people don't understand this, Carlos. And I'm glad you brought that up. Like, people around the media, like, I don't get why the Jets are so invested. I don't get why Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh would do this. Well, the way the season ended last year, where the Jets were in the driver's seat to make the playoffs and continue the longest playoff drought in the NFL. If the Jets don't make the playoffs next year, like, let's face it, Douglas, Saleh are gone. If the Jets get to the playoffs and they go deep runs 2 years with Aaron Rodgers, that buys the Jets time because Robert Saleh's proven he could coach a playoff caliber team. Joe Douglas has proven he can get a big quarterback in a trade market and also build a roster that could potentially win a championship. Now, would it give them a chance to continue to develop Zach Wilson? We'd have to see. But that's the biggest thing. In the NFL, you basically, your career in the front office as a coach is an hourglass. The biggest thing you do is you put more sand in it to give yourself more time. Right now, that hourglass is getting really low for Joe Douglas and really low for Robert Saleh. And I love both of them. I really love Joe Douglas especially. But the Jets have been here for 5 years. This is Robert Saleh year 3. And you also can't tell me that Woody, and I get people get frustrated with Woody meddling, but you can't tell me that Woody doesn't see across town the Giants making the playoffs last year and that drives him nuts. You don't think it drives him nuts where he was the owner that was giving coaches probably too much time? He gave Adam Gase should have never been hired, but after that press conference, it was like, okay, you knew it wasn't going to work. And the Jets gave him a second year. The Giants just kept ripping through head coaches until they got the right one. You can't tell me that Woody's not sitting there going, well, if Robert Saleh can't get me the playoffs in 3 years, it's not worth it. So let's see. I don't think it's a problem for the team. Like, I think it's a lot of fun for the media, and it's a fun topic for the media. I don't think it's a problem for the Jets. I get some Jets are reportedly getting frustrated that it hasn't been a decision yet. But look, you cannot tell me that the Jets, who had the worst quarterback situation in the league last year, who basically, if they had a okay quarterback or a backup quarterback and Mike White play the healthy down the stretch, that they were a playoff team. The Jets understand how much better they would be with Rodgers. Daquan, I get what you're saying, but the problem I go into with Lamar is the following. Number one, I don't think any ownership wants to give him a fully guaranteed contract. Number two, I think there are so many steps to Lamar, and I keep bringing this up. Lamar, we have to remember, is on a tag where the Ravens can match the offer. So the Jets could realistically, maybe not fully guaranteed, but what if they came back and said, we'll give you $250 million for 5 years and we'll guarantee $200? The Ravens could match that deal. And I think the Ravens would look at it and go, we don't want to do this, but there's no way we're getting up high enough in the draft to get a quarterback. And we're in a division with Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson. The AFC's loaded at quarterback. I think that Lamar is such a pipe dream for right now. And if he really became available, I do think more NFC teams would find it. And look, I do think there's interest in Lamar. I don't think the owners don't want to give him a fully guaranteed contract. They don't want fully guaranteed contracts to become the norm in the NFL. You don't want to bring an OBJ. He doesn't fit the locker room the Jets are trying to build. I I get what you're saying there, 12 years, and I don't love the personality either. Although he does seem to have been humbled when he was with the Rams. And look, I think Odell as a rental is fine because my big thing with Odell is I think he's going to be incredibly motivated to prove A, he's still one of the best receivers in the game, B, that he's healthy and can stay healthy for a full season, and C, this is why I think he'll be motivated. He's going to be 31 at the end next offseason. Like, this will be his last chance to make a big contract. He's already made good money in his career, but this is the last chance. Like, if he really wants to get paid, and that's the other reason why I think you see it. He initially said he wanted 20 million a year. He's not going to get that. But it gives you an idea, like, look, he wants a big contract. If he goes and plays at a Pro Bowl level for the Jets and plays 16 games and helps them in the postseason, he'll get 20 million for probably 3 or 4 years from someone. Someone will take a risk on OBJ. We've seen time and time again, take a risk on him because of that. Jody sucks to me, but I like Saab. But yeah, they both going to get gone if they suck next year. I like Douglas a lot. I get the frustration to Daquan. I get a lot of that's probably the free agency, but I think he's done a good job in the draft, especially the last 2 years. I think he's done a really good job, especially in the trade market. I mean, they got a starting safety for a 7th round pick. I mean, he's doing a pretty damn good job. I got the QB having a large say in the roster is foreign to us as Jet fans, but that's because we have a QB worth the privilege. I get that, Gangry. I mean, look, people say, I can't believe Aaron Rodgers wants this much say of the roster. We forgetting Tom Brady in Tampa Bay? Are we forgetting Stafford in Los Angeles? Oh, are we forgetting Russell Wilson in Denver? You know, are we forgetting Joe Burrow trying to keep his receivers together? That's why they don't have Jesse Bates anymore. Okay. Is that one of the reasons why Lamar is super frustrated? Because the Ravens didn't listen to him and get him a receiver, and the best receiver he had, they traded to the Cardinals in the middle of the night. So if you have a great quarterback, you're going to have to deal with an ego. And I get Aaron's got a weird personality at times. I get that. But Aaron's also asking for players that are rentals. Alan Lazard, maybe not because but he's also a 27-year-old player. I mean, he's asking for rental veteran players. I mean, quarterbacks do this all the time, guys. This isn't like if you are a good quarterback and you have clout, you're going to do this. You're going to demand certain things. Ravens not going to match 200. They offered 133. If they offered 200 million, but thing is, I don't think Woody wants to offer 200 million. I just don't think that's going to happen. Tom and them actually went to the team first, though. I think Rodgers is coming. I keep saying, like, people are saying, like, oh, he's doing this and it's screwing the Jets. It's bad for the Jets. I don't think it really hurts the Jets either way. I truly believe Aaron is doing this to stick it to the Packers one more time, because if he's traded, it alleviates their cap situation. It gives them some flexibility. He's basically leaving it so he's not letting them into Thanksgiving until basically everyone's picked over everything and most of the leftovers are gone. Like, there's maybe a couple of pieces of asparagus. Maybe there's a stale piece or a burnt piece of the stuffing somewhere. Maybe there's just like the turkey that didn't get cooked. Like, he is trying to leave the Packers in a bad situation, saying, all right, you left me in a bad situation for years. You didn't help me. Well, I'm not going to do you any favors. It's like Derek Carr with the Raiders. Derek Carr's like, you know what? I could be traded to the Saints, but screw it. I'm not going to help the Raiders the way they treated me, the way out. Like, even Derek Carr had a bit of an ego on the way out. No, but Peter, there was the reports last year that OBJ wanted to, before he went to the Rams, that he wanted to play with Rodgers. There's been this connection that Rodgers has always kind of wanted him to play with him. And I get it. It's a veteran receiver. It's an explosive receiver on the outside. So there's always been this kind of weird connection between the two, and always that they might meet up. And look, OBJ, like, you can't tell me that would be huge in OBJ. Like, that's another primetime game. I said the Giants, but could you imagine the Giants home game, OBJ's return, and he returns as a New York Jet? That's not going to be Sunday Night Football. That's not going to be Monday Night Football. That's not going to be Thursday Night Football. I think he's committed, Daquan. Like, I think that he has told the Jets he's coming. He's just doing this to kind of stick it to the Packers. I mean, look, if the Jets didn't feel confident this was getting done, they wouldn't be signing. They wouldn't be doing these deals. They wouldn't be doing this if they felt confident that he was coming. Like I'm telling you, like if the Jets had any doubt, they wouldn't do this. You're like, okay, like we're gonna wait. So, but I look, I get a lot of Jet fans. Like I see this, like I'm not as excited about seeing that. Let's see. Um, yeah, people. I'm just trying to see too. Like I'm trying to see. I think the Jets sign anyone else right now? I'm just really checking really quick. Because again, with the free agency period, I want to make sure I don't miss any of the latest. Um, yeah, I know they let go of Jeff Smith yesterday, but look, I think that Lazard's a good player, 27 years old, and it kind of fits what Joe Douglas wants. He wants a young player and an ascending player. You're welcome, Peter. Glad you're with the program. They need to target Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what that is. Is that like Power Beignet or something like that, David? Jets need to win, not worry about primetime games. I'm not chasing clout. I just was going on a different angle with that. But look, Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback to win this team games. He's better than Derek Carr. He's the best option. He'd be seriously, like here's a great question. He'd be the best question. Is he the best quarterback since Joe Namath? Is he better than Joe Namath? He's probably better than Joe Namath, guys. Like this might be the best, even at this extent, at this age in his career, he's the best quarterback the Jets ever had, man. But I get to Quan your frustration. That's why I think there's so much frustration that why this hasn't get done. Because the longer it goes on, I feel Jet fans are going to think it's not going to get done. I get that. They feel they're going to be burned again. And I get that. And even in the back of my mind, I feel that. But I just have this feeling that if the Jets had any doubt, he's not coming, they're not making these moves. They're moving on because they don't have time to wait and they don't have time to go out there and do this. It would so be like Aaron Rodgers come out and say he's retired. He's got $100 million on the table, this guy. He's not. If he retires, I'll be shocked. But then I think everyone else will look and go, okay, you're an idiot because you're leaving $100 million on the table. Warren Buffett has billions of dollars. He doesn't leave $100 million on the table. He just doesn't. Let's see. And look, I get it. People are like, oh, I get where the Jets are coming from. I get, the Jets have to get this done. Like, he's not better than Favre. Well, Favre was injured, dude. Like, Favre was good, but man, like Aaron Rodgers is better than Brett Favre. You want to talk about mistake? Like Brett Favre was a turnover machine. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, even though last year he didn't play great, he still doesn't turn the football over. I know it's going to get done, but I just feel like it's making a mistake going after A-Rod. But he's finished. I don't think he's finished. He had the thumb injury all last year. Look, I don't think he's going to be prime Aaron Rodgers, but I still think he's going to be a very good quarterback. And, I just laugh at everyone's like, oh my God, like Rodgers wants controlled personnel. This is crazy. Like, oh my God, like he's telling the Jets who he's want. Other quarterbacks have done this. Like Wilson has done this. Stafford has done this. Brady has done this. And I get what people are saying. Well, they were there first. That's the thing. Like if the Jets, if Rodgers is giving the Jets a wish list, like A, that tells me he's not going to retire. And B, why would he give the Jets a list if he's retiring or he doesn't want to play more? It just doesn't make sense. And, the other thing too is I agree with 12 years. I'm confident in Joe D to get this done. Like I really do believe that Joe Douglas will get this across the finish line. And I keep saying it's my theory. I really believe Rodgers is doing this not to spite the Jets, even though it feels like he is spiting the Jets. I think he is doing this to stick it to the Packers one more time because it limits how they can attack free agency. It limits who they can get in free agency. And by the time they get to free agency, all the good pickings are gone. And then all of a sudden, Green Bay, Like Aaron Rodgers wants to prove how great he is with the Jets, but I also think he wants the Packers to be god awful next year to see like, okay, they needed Aaron Rodgers because that division all of a sudden, Lions look really freaking good. They have 2 first-round picks. They can even draft the rookie quarterback if they really want to, but they don't. They're going to get great players, and they've drafted really well the last couple of years. You have the Bears, who have a buttload of draft picks now and have been aggressive in free agency. Like, their defense is going to be really good next year. And that's the thing with the Jets, too. Like, people are talking about, like, the gap with the Jets and everything. I get that the Dolphins traded for Jalen Ramsey, but I think that they're going to be such cap hell. Like, they know, like, with this 5th-year option, they have to make it work with Tua, or else they're screwed. The Jets are in the best position in the AFC East. Like, think about the Jets. The Jets have not lost significant pieces this offseason. They're probably going to get better. Patriots have not done anything in free agency. The Bills lost arguably one of their best defensive players in Edmonds going to the Bears. Like, the Bills, I don't think are going to be as good of a team next year because of the cap situation. So I think that for the Jets, like, I know people are panicking, but I don't think it's as bad as people think. And I really do believe that Rodgers is doing this to make a point. And he's making a wish list. Like, BK, thank you so much. It's a wish list. And Lazard fits what the Jets need, a big outside receiver at 6'5" that's 27 and still in the prime of his career. That's a Joe Douglas special. Now, Cobb and Lewis might be tough, especially now because it's reported the Raiders are targeting him. He might go to the Raiders now because of Darren Waller's absence. But if the Jets get like that, OBJ or Cobb, like I'm kind of curious to see. I think Cobb, if they get 2 of the 3 receivers, I think OBJ is number 1 on Rodgers' board, but Cobb's like the follow-up option. Like, okay, OBJ went and played $18 million, but I like Randall. We'll give him a job. He'll be the 5th receiver on the team. Let's see. Bills own A-Rod, too. He never going to beat the Pats. Like, the Jets almost beat the Patriots last year with Zach Wilson having the worst quarterback games in the NFL history. And the Jets, if Mike White doesn't crack 5 freaking ribs in Buffalo, the Jets could win 2 games. Like, you're telling me that the Jets, with the worst quarterback play in the NFL, went toe-to-toe with those teams, and then they get Aaron Rodgers. Like, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to be great, but you don't think he's an upgrade over Zach Wilson throwing 3 of the worst interceptions or not completing double-digit passes in Foxborough, or Mike White basically having to be carried off the field twice in Buffalo, and Joe Flacco is just like, God damn it, I have to go back out there and play. Like, I just want to collect my check on the sideline. Aaron Rodgers isn't better than that, please. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is an upgrade, man. Come on. Hell, the Jets almost beat the Dolphins in the last game of the season with Joe Flacco, who can't run, and basically a practice squad offensive line, and they still almost beat the goddamn Dolphins, for God's sakes. I mean, come on, man. Come on. I'm not saying Lazard's an unbelievable receiver, but you're making him sound like he's terrible. Like, he's a productive receiver. He's 27. I mean, is he worse than Corey Davis? Corey Davis can't stay on the field. At least Allen Lazard can stay healthy in his NFL career. I mean, Corey Davis is either dropping the football or in an ice tub. I mean, look, Allen Lazard's terrible. Oh, really? Allen Lazard's terrible. He had 788 yards and 6 touchdowns last year. Year before, 8 touchdowns. I mean, last 2 years, 14 touchdowns total and well over 1,200 yards received. But yeah, he's terrible. I mean, he's terrible. I mean, I'd rather have him on a cheaper deal than Corey Davis. I'll tell you that. I think it's not much of a difference. I mean, come on. Let's see. Flacco was okay. Yeah, that's the funny thing, Randall. He was okay, and he didn't want to be there. Joe Flacco was like, I want to be anywhere else than on this field in Buffalo right now. Oh, my God. 27 out of the league. Did you not just hear me? He had 6 touchdown catches and 788 yards and 60 catches last year. That's not out of the league. I hate to tell you, that's not out of the league. Like, hold on, I'm sorry, guys. I appreciate keep banging the comments out. I'm just gonna do. I just have to compare this. Like, we're going down this rabbit hole. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm just going down this rabbit hole right now. So hold on one second. Oh, here. Oh, okay. Alan Lazard's terrible. So you know how I said that Alan Lazard had what 6 touchdown catches last year, right? Corey Davis has had 6 in the 2 years with the Jets. So Alan Lazard has the same touchdown production last year with the quarterback that's likely coming in as Corey Davis did. Corey Davis started 19 games over the last 2 years. Alan Lazard has started 28. You know, slight difference. You know, slight difference. You know. Oh, here's a catch percentage, right? Catch percentage. Corey Davis, first year at the Jets, 57%. Last year, 50%. Alan Lazard, 66% in 2021, 60% last year. So we're talking about a guy that has been more productive with touchdowns, has more catches, has played in more games, and has a higher catch percentage. But, you know, he's you know, he's terrible. I mean, Corey Davis, man. I mean, come on, man. Oh my God. Yeah, Loopy, I get what you're coming from, man. I get it. Like, it would make it easier for us. We'd all go a lot better. And also, great picture, by the way. I see you rocking that Curtis Martin jersey. Nice. I love that jersey. That's a good one. Let's see. Everyone in the Jets garb looking good, Loopy OU. The question is the OU like from Oklahoma University? Like, I'm just curious. Like, I don't know if that's or if that's just a creative number, but maybe I didn't know. OU, your OU University, man. But let's see. Let's see. This is why I wanted DC over Carr, Jacob Cooper. He's going to take over for Joe Dean, be such a diva. He's exhausting to deal with. I look at it, Jacob, like this. You never want to marry crazy, but you'll date crazy. I think the Jets have come to the fact, like, look, we'll date this guy. We'll deal with it for 2 years. And look, like, people are like, oh my God, these demands or requests are outrageous. I mean, a decent big wide receiver on the outside that's been more productive than the guy you're going to cut. You know, 2 veterans, you're probably getting on the veteran minimum, and then OBJ. I mean, OBJ is the wild card here. But I do think OBJ, like if the Jets say, look, we'll give you a 1 year, $10, $11 million deal, I think OBJ would come because it's back on the big stage in New York. It's with Aaron Rodgers, and I do believe he's got to use this as a springboard. But I get Derek Carr. I like Derek Carr a lot, but the more I thought about it is, especially in the AFC, you need special at quarterback. Like, you can't survive with a good quarterback. Derek Carr is a good quarterback, but he will do great in the NFC South because he's going to have to deal with the first overall pick as a rookie, Taylor Heineke in Atlanta, and then whoever the Bucks go with. Like, who's it going to be? Like Baker Mayfield or something? So, like, Derek Carr, I really believe this. You could make a case Derek Carr is a top 5 quarterback in the NFC. Would Derek Carr be a top 10 quarterback in the AFC? It'd be tough because let's say Lamar stays. Burrow and Lamar are better. Herbert's better. Mahomes is better. Wilson's probably better if he's right, but I'm going to leave him out of the conversation. Josh Allen's better. I'm just trying to think. The South. Trevor Lawrence is better. I mean, Russell Wilson, you could probably make the case for too. So, what is he, like the 8th quarterback in the AFC? I like Derek Carr a lot, but the other thing too is, and I get Jet fans hate when I say this, but the Jets, I don't think want to give up on on Zach Wilson. They've invested a significant pick. They see the talent that he has. And the league saw this because everyone else tried to trade up for Zach Wilson. So for people saying the Jets were idiots, a lot of people were also trying to get Zach Wilson. If they can get Zach Wilson right and reboot him and have a young quarterback, because Zach Wilson's still a baby. He's going to be 23 this year. If you have Aaron Rodgers for 2 years and you pick up Zach's fifth-year option, see how it goes, and he plays well, you have your young quarterback who'll be in the mid-20s for potentially 10 years. Like, that to me is the Jets' long-term plan. And if they see in practice, hey, it's not going right, that gives them time. I keep saying this. NFL, it's all about putting that sand back in the hourglass. If you get to the playoffs this year, Sal and Douglas, a lot of sand goes back in that hourglass. If they don't, it's out. But if Aaron Rodgers gets you to a Super Bowl or gets you to 2 AFC championship games and then decides to call it quits, and there Zach Wilson's sitting there and you want to roll with him, I do think you get the benefit of the doubt to try it at least. You don't just throw away young quarterbacks. And people like, oh, like, look who gets opportunities. If you're a top draft pick as a quarterback, people are going to give you chances. Sam Darnold's getting a third chance with San Francisco. Josh Rosen, who was awful and doesn't have nearly the talent of Zach Wilson. How many opportunities and teams did he bounce around the NFL because someone's like, I can make it work. Maybe the light bulb will go off. But that's why I think that they're so into Rodgers. And also, thank you for pointing that out there. I really appreciate that. Yeah, that's the other thing. I don't think Carr would have been a great fit for the Jets either. I just really don't. Hate the Wilson Moore new receivers. So that's the thing too. Like he wants people he can trust and he's got familiarity with. I think he's going to learn to grow in love with Garrett Wilson too. And I think Elijah Moore is going to be productive too. And plus this helps Moore. You got a big outside receiver. Moore needs to play in the slot more. Guess what? Braxton Berrios is gone. That's another thing. The Jets have lost Jeff Smith, Braxton Berrios already. They've lost 2 of their receivers from last year. They're going to cut Corey Davis out, give him 3. They might trade Denzel Mims. That might be 4. So the Jets already are down 3 receivers from last year. And they brought 1 in. So people are like, oh my God, this is terrible. Oh my God. Like, basically Randall Cobb's going to be the team's Jeff Smith this year. I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. Not even top 20. I disagree, Daquan. I think he's a top 16. Although I did laugh too, because one of the things that was thrown out there was the backup option for the Jets to be training for Kirk Cousins. And that would be an interesting one. Like, in some ways, I like Cousins better than Carr. I think Cousins is a bit more athletic, is a little bit better. But again, the problem you worry about is the primetime performance isn't getting it done. Yeah, OBJ was great. Like, that's the thing, too. We forget OBJ was having a great year until his injury. And last year, the other thing that helps Odell, too, is I think it was a good thing he didn't play last year because he would have probably rushed back. And when you hear ACLs, they're not really right the first couple of weeks afterward. But once you get more time away, I think that's going to help with his recovery. And, I mean, you look, when he went to the Rams, he was dynamic. He had 5 touchdown catches with the Rams that year in just 8 games. I mean, he's a dynamic player when it's right. And I keep saying he wants to get one more big contract. What's better than playing with Aaron Rodgers to help pump up those numbers? Let's see. If any receivers are good enough for Rodgers, they're good enough for the Jets. Like that, that's a good point, Justice. I agree that. I saw that. Yeah, that's a joke. Like I get where people are coming from, but look, I just feel like you want to bring in people that have familiarity with them too. And look, if they bring a Cobb, it's gonna be the league minimum, man. It's not gonna be that bad. If Zach Bowles with ADHD, it could be wow. Just don't go to any reading clubs. That's my biggest advice. Just don't go to any book clubs. If you mention ADHD, I suggest they try. How did we go to the riddle and rabbit hole, guys? How did we end up here? Like, man, this Aaron Rodgers thing is driving us all crazy because we are going to some we are going to some weird places today, like places I did not expect to go to. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's That's crazy. I'm messing, but don't want OBJ. We have Elijah Moore and need to develop him. Jacob, I do agree with that. Personally, if you had my choice, I would rather have Elijah Moore get those snaps. But we also know the NFL, you lose players for time. And I know it'd be overkill at the wide receiver depth, but if you were, God forbid, were to lose Elijah Moore for a couple games, or Lazard a couple of games, or Garrett Wilson a couple games, I don't think it would hurt. And the big thing too is the contract. If it's not a terrible contract, I don't mind OBJ. And look, if it makes Rodgers play better and be happy, that's fine. And plus, the thing too is, like, as much as we love Elijah Moore as Jet fans, and as much as we want to see him get more opportunities, as much as I think we've come around to that blow up really was probably more on the floor than more. This is someone that, again, last year only had 446 yards, only had one touchdown. I mean, I know how great he was his rookie season, but it's clear Garrett Wilson is this team's number one. There's still a lot of questions with Elijah Moore. Can he stay healthy a full 16 games? What impact he can make? And look, I get he had a falling out with his coaching staff to an extent. So it'll be interesting to see. But if they feel OBJ is going to make this a better football team, I'm not going to say no. I want this team to be as good as possible. If OBJ, they'll put it in the end zone. They'll paint it green and white. They'll have Fireman Ed celebrating down there too, man. That's a good one. And OG, that could be a big headache. Jacob Cooper. Sorry about that, Jacob. I agree and disagree. So here's my thoughts. It would be a 1-year thing. I think both wouldn't be that bad for one season together. OBJ, too, is coming off a major injury. He's had major injury issues his whole career. He's had the off-the-field issues. He had the off-the-field airport issue. I think, like, he needs to – his camp needs to tell him, look, this is the last chance for you. If you want a major contract in the NFL, you're going to be 31 as a free agent after this season. If you go out and ball out and behave, you have a greater chance to get that contract. But if you're a distraction, if you don't stay healthy, and if you don't produce, what teams will still kick the tires on OBJ, but it'll be like 1-year deals, a couple million guaranteed, a lot of incentive base. If he wants like a 3 or 4 year contract, this year is when he has to get it done. So I don't hate that. I'll get to you, Loopy, in a sec. Rich, I know it's not a list of demands. I don't see how OJ or Lewis makes sense. Lewis, to me, makes the least sense because of all the tight ends. Now, he has a great rapport with Rodgers. The problem with Lewis is I don't see a place, because I do think this team wants to get Jeremy Ruckert on the field more next year. Because you have Conklin, you have Uzama in front of him. So I could see the Jets doing that. I mean, if you bring in Lewis, you're probably going to have to trade someone. But he's a good blocking tight end. Now, OBJ, I think it's because him and Rodgers are friends, and they've always kind of the last couple of years have wanted to play with each other. I think that's what it is. And look, I don't think it's like you have to get all four. I mean, the Jets got Lazard. I think it's kind of like, if you don't get OBJ, can we get Randall Cobb to be the team's fifth receiver? I don't think the Jets will say no to that. And look, James Spillane, I think there's more pressing concerns, like the O-line. I'm curious if he knows any offensive linemen, maybe from Green Bay. I know there's a couple of free agents. Nate Herbig was a big loss today. I mean, Dwayne Brown does help. I don't love that Connor McGovern's sitting out there. I would hope the Jets bring him back. Loopy, I would tend to agree with you, except OBJ's had a major ACL surgery. He's had a laundry list of injuries. So look, when you start to get injured in the NFL, your career gets significantly shorter. And I'm not saying like OBJ, like at 31, this might be the last time we really see him potentially at his peak, because if he gets more injuries, he's not going to be as explosive. Like I tend to agree with your point, but when you were talking about banged up players, I do think that timeline does get changed. No, he's going to go to 12. I know Namath already said he'd allow Rodgers to wear. It would be interesting too if he goes to 8. Then is Elijah Moore going to have a conniption that he has to change his number? That would be something. Hey man, I love it. Love the attitude, man. Age is just a number, my friend. Randall Cobb. I will say Becton's looking in unbelievable shape, but we'll have to see it on the field, man. Jets could draft the wide receiver. Look, they're going to pay him the veteran minimum. Like they're going to pay him like nothing. And look, the Jets have other holes that they're going to have to address in the draft. Like I love that they brought Quincy back, but the Jets, some needs in the draft: offensive tackle, probably a center, probably offensive line, interior depth, maybe a running back potentially, because it's clear the Jets want to add there. But if we go on the defensive side of the ball, probably looking at a safety, probably looking at a linebacker or two, probably looking at an interior defensive lineman. Like there's a lot of other needs that the Jets have to address in the draft. But that's going to do it for us today, guys. We will be here on Aaron Rodgers Watch, and we will be going live as soon as we possibly can when the news hopefully breaks. Will it be today? Tomorrow? But this will get done with the Jets. And my biggest takeaway from all of this is I think that this is Rodgers just playing the Packers. That's what I really, truly believe it is. But again, thanks guys so much for joining us. If you're joining after the live stream, make sure to comment. I will get to your questions in the next live stream. And of course, if you are new to the channel, bash that subscribe button. Give us a like. We want to get as many Jet fans in here as possible. We love having you guys on. Love the conversations that we have. We will see you next time as we come back with more Rodgers Watch here on Rich Sports Talk.